People always say that silence means weakness. I believed that too. Until the night my silence changed everything. The message appeared on my phone at exactly 11:47 p.m. You deserve to know the truth about the man you trust. There was no name, no profile picture, just those 11 words and a single photo attached. For a few seconds, I couldn't breathe. I stared at the screen, hoping it was some kind of mistake. Maybe someone had sent it to the wrong person. Maybe it was a cruel joke. Then I opened the photo. The smile on my husband's face was impossible to miss. He looked happier than I had seen him in months. But I wasn't standing beside him. Another woman was. She wasn't just a stranger passing by. The way they looked at each other told a story that broke my heart before I even knew the details. My hands started shaking. I wanted to call him immediately. I wanted to scream, demand answers, and tell him I knew everything. Instead, I put my phone down, because something inside me whispered a different idea. Don't let him know. If he believed I knew nothing, he would keep making mistakes, and every mistake would bring me one step closer to the truth. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't throw things. I didn't leave the house. I simply sat in the darkness, listening to the sound of the clock on the wall while my entire world fell apart. By morning, I had made one promise to myself. I would never beg for honesty from someone who had chosen lies. If he wanted to keep acting like the perfect husband, I would let him. I would smile. I would listen. I would wait. Because the truth has a strange habit of revealing itself to people who stay patient. What he didn't know was that every lie he told from that moment forward was building the very path that would expose him. He thought I would stay silent forever. He had no idea that my silence was only the beginning. The next morning, I acted like nothing had happened. When Daniel walked into the kitchen, he smiled the same warm smile I had fallen in love with years ago. He kissed my forehead, poured himself a cup of coffee, and asked if I had slept well. For a moment, I almost believed everything was normal. Almost. I forced a small smile and nodded. Inside, my heart felt heavier than ever. Every word he spoke sounded different now. Every smile made me wonder what it was hiding. To everyone around us, we were the couple people admired. We had been married for 6 years. Friends often joked that we never argued. Our neighbors called us the perfect match. Even our families believed we were living the kind of life everyone wished for. I believed it too. Daniel was thoughtful, hardworking, and always knew the right thing to say. He remembered birthdays, brought flowers home without any special reason, and made people feel comfortable the moment they met him. It was easy to trust someone like that. Maybe that was why I never noticed the small changes. He started coming home later than usual. His phone was always turned face down on the table. He suddenly changed the password he had shared with me for years. Whenever I asked if everything was okay, he smiled and blamed work. "Things are just busy," he would say. And because I loved him, I believed him. Love has a strange way of covering the truth. It makes excuses before asking questions. It chooses hope over doubt. Looking back, the signs had been there all along. There were business trips that seemed to happen more often. Late-night phone calls he took outside. Conversations that stopped the moment I entered the room. Each clue was small on its own. Together, they painted a picture I refused to see. That anonymous photo had changed everything. It was like someone had turned on a light in a room that had been dark for years. Suddenly, every memory looked different. But I wasn't ready to accuse him. Not yet. If someone wanted me to know the truth, there had to be more than one picture. I needed answers, not assumptions. I needed facts that no lie could erase. So instead of confronting Daniel, I did something he never expected. I watched. I listened, and I waited. Because the man who believed he had fooled everyone was about to discover that the quietest person in the room often notices the most. He thought our perfect life was still safe. He had no idea the illusion was already beginning to fall apart. For the next few days, I said nothing. I laughed at Daniel's jokes, ate dinner across from him, and even watched our favorite TV show together. If he looked closely, he might have noticed the smile on my face never reached my eyes. But he didn't. He believed his lies were safe, and that confidence made him careless. One Friday evening, he rushed home from work, changed his shirt, and told me he had an important business dinner. "I'll probably be home late," he said as he grabbed his car keys. I simply nodded. "Drive safely." The moment the front door closed, I looked around the quiet house. My eyes landed on the tablet he normally carried everywhere. For the first time in months, he had forgotten it on the living room table. I wasn't planning to invade his privacy. At least, that's what I told myself. But after receiving that anonymous photo, nothing felt normal anymore. The screen lit up with a single tap. It wasn't locked. My heart started racing. At first, everything looked ordinary: mails, work documents, and calendar reminders. Then I noticed a folder with no name, only a small gray icon. It looked so plain that most people would never open it. I did. Inside were dozens of scanned receipts for expensive dinners, hotel bookings, and weekend trips Daniel had never taken with me. The dates matched the business trips he had always talked about. I kept scrolling. Then I found something that made my stomach drop. A digital notebook. It wasn't filled with work notes. It was filled with plans, dinner reservations, gift ideas, anniversary reminders. Not for me. For someone named Claire, one page read, "She loves white roses. Don't forget this time." I stared at the words, unable to blink. White roses. Just a week earlier, Daniel had brought me red roses and apologized for being so busy. He hadn't forgotten how to be romantic. He had simply been saving his best efforts for someone else. A tear rolled down my cheek, but I quickly wiped it away. Crying wouldn't change the truth. Then I noticed something else. At the bottom of one page was an address I had never seen before, followed by a note. Saturday, 7:30 p.m. She'll be waiting. That wasn't just evidence. It was an opportunity. For the first time since receiving that mysterious message, I realized I wasn't chasing the truth anymore. The truth was waiting for me. And if Daniel believed another ordinary Saturday was ahead of him, he was about to make the biggest mistake of his life. I quietly closed the tablet, placed it exactly where he had left it, and took a deep breath. He still thought I knew nothing. That was exactly how I wanted it. Because sometimes, the strongest move isn't exposing a lie the moment you find it. It's letting the liar believe they're still winning. That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the words from Daniel's notebook. "She'll be waiting." For hours, I stared at the ceiling, replaying every memory from the past 6 years. I remembered our wedding vows, the promises we made, and all the times I defended him when people questioned why he worked so late. I had trusted him with my heart. He had trusted me with his lies. By sunrise, something inside me had changed. I was done asking myself why. I was done hoping there was an explanation that would make everything okay. Most importantly, I was done crying over someone who had stopped respecting me long ago. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror and looked at my reflection. My eyes were tired, but for the first time in days, I didn't see a broken woman. I saw someone who still had a choice. I couldn't control Daniel's actions, but I could control my response. Instead of acting on emotion, I decided to act with patience. Over the next week, I became the same cheerful wife Daniel expected to see. I asked about his day, laughed at his stories, and never questioned his late nights. The more comfortable he became, the more careless he grew. He left receipts in his jacket pocket. He answered phone calls without leaving the room. Sometimes he even smiled at messages before quickly locking his phone, believing I wasn't paying attention. He had no idea I noticed everything now. I started keeping a private journal. Every unusual trip, every excuse, every receipt, every date, every little detail found its place on those pages. I wasn't collecting memories anymore. I was collecting the truth. Then I remembered the anonymous message that had started all of this. Someone had wanted me to know. Someone had taken the risk to send that photo. I replied to the number, even though I wasn't sure anyone would answer. "Thank you, I know there's more. Who are you?" Hours passed without a response. Just when I thought the message had gone nowhere, my phone buzzed. "Meet me tomorrow, noon. Greenleaf Cafe. Come alone." There was still no name, no explanation. Only a place and a time. The next day, I arrived 15 minutes early. Every person who walked through the cafe door made my heart race. Finally, a woman about my age stepped inside. She looked nervous, constantly checking over her shoulder before walking toward my table. "Are you Emma?" she asked quietly. I nodded. She sat down and took a deep breath. "My name is Olivia," she said. "I work with Daniel." Before I could ask another question, she slid a small envelope across the table. "I couldn't keep watching him lie to you." My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside were printed emails, copies of meeting schedules, and several photographs. One picture showed Daniel holding hands with Claire outside a restaurant. Another showed them entering the same apartment building, whose address I had found in his notebook. The final photo was dated just 3 days earlier. There was no denying it anymore. The truth was sitting right in front of me. I looked up at Olivia. "Why are you helping me?" I whispered. She looked down for a moment before answering. "Because you're not the only person he's been lying to." Those words hit me harder than any photograph ever could. In that moment, I realized this wasn't just a story about betrayal. It was about a web of lies that was far bigger than I had imagined. And Daniel had no idea that the people protecting his secrets were beginning to disappear, one by one. I left the cafe with the envelope hidden inside my handbag, but the weight I carried wasn't the papers. It was the truth. For the first time, I had proof that couldn't be explained away with another excuse. That evening, Daniel came home smiling. "You won't believe it," he said as he loosened his tie. "My company is hosting a big charity gala this Saturday. Spouses are invited. It'll be a nice night for us." I almost laughed. A few days earlier, I had found a note in his tablet. "Saturday, 7:30 p.m., she'll be waiting." The gala wasn't a coincidence. It was part of his plan. He wanted me to believe we would spend the evening together while secretly slipping away to meet Claire. I smiled politely. "That sounds wonderful." His face relaxed. He truly believed I knew nothing. Over the next few days, I prepared carefully, not for revenge fueled by anger for the truth. I made copies of every receipt, every email, every photograph Olivia had given me. I saved everything to a secure online folder and even emailed the files to myself, just in case anything disappeared. I wasn't going to make a scene. Facts speak louder than shouting ever could. Saturday finally arrived. The hotel ballroom sparkled with golden lights. Soft music filled the room while guests laughed and talked over dinner. Daniel looked confident, greeting coworkers and introducing me with the same proud smile he always wore. "This is my amazing wife, Emma," he kept saying. The words sounded empty. Halfway through the evening, Daniel checked his phone. "I'll be back in a few minutes," he whispered. "My manager needs to discuss something." I nodded. "Take your time." Instead of following him immediately, I waited. 1 minute, then 2 finally. I quietly walked toward the hallway Olivia had told me about. At the end of the corridor was a small rooftop garden overlooking the city. And there they were. Daniel stood beside Claire, laughing as though the world belonged to them. He handed her a small white gift box tied with a silver ribbon, the same kind of thoughtful surprise he hadn't given me in months. I didn't interrupt. Instead, I raised my phone and calmly took a photograph, then another and another. Neither of them noticed. I turned and walked back inside. 10 minutes later, Daniel returned to the ballroom, pretending nothing had happened. "Sorry," he said. "The meeting took longer than expected." I smiled, I know. His expression froze for just a second. "What do you mean?" Instead of answering, I reached into my purse and placed one photograph on the table between us. It showed him handing Claire the gift. His face lost all color. Before he could speak, Olivia walked toward our table. She wasn't alone. Behind her stood two senior managers from the company. One of them looked directly at Daniel. "We need to talk," he said calmly. The room suddenly felt silent. Claire had also entered the ballroom, unaware of what was happening, until she noticed everyone's eyes turning toward her. Daniel looked from me to Olivia, then to his managers. For the first time since I had met him, he had no explanation ready, no charming smile, no carefully prepared lie, only silence. I stood up, picked up my handbag, and looked him in the eyes. "I gave you every chance to tell the truth," I said quietly. "You chose another lie every single time." Then I walked away, no shouting, no tears, no dramatic scene. Just the truth, standing in the middle of the room where his lies could no longer hide. As the elevator doors closed behind me, I heard confused voices echoing through the hallway. Daniel wasn't chasing after me. He was too busy trying to explain the one thing he could never explain away. The truth had arrived at exactly the right moment. And this time, everyone had seen it. The next morning, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Daniel called once, then twice. By lunchtime, there were more than 20 missed calls and a dozen text messages. "Emma, please let me explain. It's not what you think. Can we just talk?" I read every message without replying. A week earlier, I would have answered after the first call. I would have searched for reasons to forgive him, hoping his words could somehow erase the truth. But the truth doesn't disappear just because someone is sorry they were caught. It stays. And so did my silence. Later that afternoon, Olivia called. "I thought you should know," she said. "The company has started an internal investigation. Daniel's managers found out he had been lying about several business trips and using company events for personal meetings. They're reviewing everything." I thanked her and ended the call. I didn't feel happy. I didn't celebrate. The consequences weren't coming because I had tried to ruin his life. They were coming because of the choices he had made himself. Over the next few days, more pieces of the story came to light. Claire had believed Daniel was separated and waiting for the divorce papers to be finalized. She had no idea we were still living together. When she learned the truth, she ended the relationship immediately. Daniel had been lying to both of us. His carefully built world collapsed faster than he ever imagined. Friends who once admired him started asking difficult questions. Family members stopped defending him when they saw the evidence. Even people at work began looking at him differently. The image he had spent years creating disappeared in just a few days. Meanwhile, I quietly packed my belongings and moved into a small apartment across town. It wasn't as large as the house I had left behind, but for the first time in months it felt peaceful. Every morning, I opened the curtains and let the sunlight fill the room. I started reading again, something I hadn't done in years. I joined a weekend photography class, met new people, and slowly remembered who I had been before I built my entire world around someone else's promises. One evening, Daniel sent one final message. "I never realized what I had until I lost you." I looked at the screen for a long moment before locking my phone. Some lessons arrived too late. I didn't need revenge anymore. Life had already done what anger never could. It had revealed the truth. Months later, I walked through a local park with my camera in hand, smiling as children laughed nearby and the autumn leaves danced in the wind. For the first time in a long while, my heart felt light. I realized something important. The strongest revenge isn't making someone suffer. It's refusing to let their betrayal define your future. Daniel believed my silence meant I was weak. He thought I would accept every excuse, every lie, and every broken promise. Instead, my silence gave me time to see clearly. It gave me patience to uncover the truth. And when that truth finally came to light, I didn't need to shout. The facts spoke for themselves. That was the greatest lesson of all. People can hide behind lies for a while, but sooner or later, the truth finds its own voice. And when it does, no amount of excuses can silence it. I lost a marriage, but I found something far more valuable. I found my self-respect. Looking back now, I don't remember the moment he betrayed me as the day my life ended. I remember it as the day I finally began living for myself. Because sometimes staying silent isn't surrender. Sometimes it's the first step toward becoming stronger than you ever imagined.